Alright, let's get this started. So, this is some of the project planning I'm starting to work on. I still feel like I'm pretty much a novice to some of this stuff, but it's pretty fun to just kind of go through this design process that I'm doing. Just because my team is so small that we're just like, okay, what projects do we want to plan for the year and where do we want to go with stuff? One of the bigger projects we're trying to figure out is how do we cut some of the IT bloat that we have. It's not necessarily a ton of bloat, but it's just like things where you're like, I'd like to not have to pay for these things. How do we mitigate some of this cost? We don't need full redundancy, but we do need some independency. How do we go about that? I think what we're gonna end up doing, some of the stuff we're gonna be working on is our infrastructure is very print heavy, and it's very, we have a lot of different locations getting synced into one location. We're trying to figure out ways to make it so that if stuff goes offline for some reason, it automatically goes over to the other server or a completely different location in case the internet goes offline, full redundancy type stuff. We don't want to host it in AWS because that's always going to be more expensive than hosting it yourself. And same thing with the data center. Like, a data center is great because they'll 100% guarantee that you'll have internet connection, you'll 100% have power at that location. But it comes with a ton of cost. With us being relatively small picture, like our demands aren't very high. We're trying to figure out ways to get around some of that stuff. Some of the other big costs have been VMware's just increasing their costs because they know they have contracts with big companies that they won't ever move. And then the other one being some of our Windows licenses, because we currently host a lot of our print and server stuff on Windows. So what we're going to be doing over the next year and a half probably is figuring out how Linux side of things looks, especially with printers. Sometimes the printer drivers are not as robust or consistent on the Linux side, and they're a little bit harder to find the drivers specifically for it. Especially some of the label printers where they haven't been updated in like 20 years, and like companies have bought out each other multiple times, so you have to like figure out what sub company is being hosted by this stuff sometimes. So that happens. So this has been a fun kind of a thought project that I've kind of been doing, where I've been using ChatGPT to kind of help me get some of the just rough ends done. Like, hey, I needed to accomplish these things. What would you recommend? And then what I usually do with ChatGPT is, well, I will get the initial deliverables from ChatGPT, and then I will go through and figure it all out and look at the documentation it's providing me and go, okay, this is stuff that's actually current. I don't see any other options that are better or fit the requirements that I currently have. And then I'll go and proceed with that particular part of the feature. That's a big part of the project planning that I kind of like. This is what I really enjoy, is just, hey, how does this function? How is this going to work together? I don't care about the actual deployment side of it as much. I don't find that as enjoyable, but project planning is definitely a lot of fun. There's a lot of technical stuff. I sometimes have trouble getting into the weeds and like understanding some of that stuff, but from the project planning perspective, I really enjoy this stuff. But anyways, I want to show you some of the initial stuff I got from ChatGPT and what I'm working with on this particular project. There's no sensitive data in here, but I thought it was pretty cool. So what I'll eventually just start to do is I will take this project and then reinsert it back into ChatGPT and say, hey, what considerations should I have here? So I'll just start a whole new chat. I'll usually have like a pre-script that'll say, hey, I want you to be my senior level developer. We have a big concern about these three things. I want you to give me the blunt truth, and if there's better options out there, especially paid options, I want you to break this down for me and figure out what I'm doing wrong here. And then it'll give me kind of a fresh perspective, and then I'll go run those leads down and figure out where those all fit in. And that's one of the crazy things that I'm finding with the AI is it does hallucinate a little bit, but I feel like this particular project is doing pretty good so far. I'm at least able to get a project outline going. It's actually one thing that I really love to do with it is ask it. I don't want just a high level view. I want each individual part, and then as I open up each part, I'll have it. It'll give me a strategy guide. That might be a little small. Of what the requirements will be. I will then go through each section of this and go, I don't understand this piece. Can you explain this more for me? And I want specific documentation around this. I think I got, let's see. Because it always tries to like not give me the documentation and it drives me nuts. So by having backed up documentation for the proposals, let's see. Yeah, so this page has lost its links, but that's fine. So I'm getting authoritative links directly from ChatGPT. I'll go through each link and go, okay, HA manager for proxmox. That's a high availability. I understand what this concept is. I've broken it down into a specific document, and then so like this is the overview it gave me for this is how the config file stuff will work. I'm going to go through this in detail a little bit more for you, but I just wanted to show you how easy this has become to just quickly just grab from ChatGPT the raw data output and then break it down into what I think is going to work best for our environment and go from there. But you do have to do the actual work. So like this is an executive summary. This is what I'm probably going to hand to my boss and say, this is what you need to focus on. And then I'll have a secondary document, kind of like this link stock. Yeah, this one that goes over each of the concepts and says, hey, this is what this concept is doing. This is what this is doing. This is a very simple breakdown of what it is. Here's the URL directly to their documentation page. This is the URL for my documentation page, breaking it down even further. This is what my testing pages look like. All that stuff is being collaboratively broken down and simplified so that we can have very comprehensive view of this. And then I'll be good analogies. I've set up a couple of tiny PCs and stuff, so I've started setting up some of that stuff. Eventually we're going to start going into you know, how do you do monitoring and alerts and stuff, because dashboards and stuff are always going to be helpful. Obviously this is not filled out enough for me personally, but there's a lot of great solutions for this stuff. So we can set up an email server really easy. Proxmox actually has one. So I think Proxmox is probably gonna be the best solution we have, because Proxmox has their main nodes that they can have. And then we're gonna have the backup server for it. And then we're gonna have high availability zones, because we have 2 IT locations. So I'm probably gonna set up a server, our location A, where it's gonna be the primary, and then we're gonna have a secondary server at the site B. I have a feeling that we could probably just go get used hardware for the site B, because it's not going to be used very much, and it's just mostly there to be a backup to the backups. Just to be excessive. Come on. So I think we'll probably just end up doing something like that, just so we can get cost. I know it's pretty small, but I'm probably estimating we're probably gonna be saving around 100,000 to 200,000 a year, by making this move from Microsoft, VMware, and the data center. It's gonna take a few months to get to that point of savings, but it's like more than my yearly salary, so it's it's definitely makes us, we can almost either we can start paying people better or get more people involved to help work with these tools instead of just dumping it into someone else's pocket. All right. This broke. Explain why it's kind of coming up. All right. So for my understanding of the way this is going to work, I just wanted to go over this with you because I thought this is really cool solution that we're probably going to be making. All right, so we're gonna have like where to draw on this. Oh, we got like the whole thing perfect. So we're gonna have our main server, which is actually maybe it's bigger. So we're gonna have proxmox. And then it's gonna have two main nodes. They're gonna be inside here. I'm not sure if I'm gonna put the dashboard node in here or not, but that's definitely a possibility. Also, I'll just put your dashboard. I saw there was a few really good solutions for dashboards. One of the just really basic one was called Pulse. Just gives you very good graphs of the information, and ability for Docker and your actual just VMs and nodes. You can dump as many as you want into the same location, so you can get all the data right from there. You can it actually gives the option to click on stuff. I'd show you mine, but it's on my other computer, so it's not going to work. We have our dashboard. I'm not sure what we're going to do about our Active Directory server. We might just put it on the proxmox as well. But that might end up being bare metal just so it's not being touched by anything. And then when this is going out to the internet, it's gonna be we're gonna set up firewall rules to restrict the nodes. So if we don't need to have like SSH and stuff enabled all the time, or extra ports, we're just going to restrict it down to the specific ports that are going to be used. And then we can have let's see. So these are gonna be probably Ubuntu. Ubu. It's really hard to write letters with this pen I chose. And then just LTS, long-term service. And then have a cup server set up on those. So it's just very easy and very basic. Cups is the print node. It's printing. I can't remember what's, but it's basically just handles printing. They have a GUI version and then an SSH version. So I'm probably gonna set up both. And then from there, we're gonna have a bunch of stuff like failed to ban. Then our security software is going to be on there as well. We have a couple different options with the security software stuff, but it should be really robust and give us really fast alerts. Then we're going to have honeypots sprinkled into this. I'm probably going to set up a fake server or two, and have canary token type files on there as well. So if those files get touched, I'm immediately alerted about it. Just because, that's how security is. You always have to have tripwires. Nobody's infrastructure is ever going to be 100% perfect. So some of the stuff I was just thinking of off the top of my head, I'm still going through the documentation myself. So the way that this is going to end up working is we're going to have print jobs coming in. I think we use print node for the primary. I'm going to be reviewing if that's still the best option, especially when it comes to Linux itself, and then print node will send it to each individual printer itself from there. But I believe that's all going to be on, go to the main, it'll go to the main node 1, and then push it out to the printers. And then, but if this has issues, or one of the printer goes offline, for some reason it'll try on node 2. If the whole server system goes offline, it'll then go to the second site. And this is all done directly. That's what the HA stuff is with proxmox, from my understanding, is what that will do. I don't think it has any load balancing capability, but I would prefer that, but I don't even want to try and complicate this. I just want a simple, hey, stuff went offline, move to the next one. So I'm not getting a 3 a.m. phone call from people in the East Coast trying to say, hey, why is this not online? Some of the bigger issues I'm probably going to run into with just the Linux system in general, though, is just drivers. But that's my problem. So when I set up these servers, though, the really cool thing is we're going to probably have a golden template. VM image that gets replicated, to wherever we need them to be. And then the way we keep this in sync, I thought that I'm not sure how this is going to work exactly, but this is what ChatGPT was explaining. I have a feeling this is going to work because I've set up a fair amount of GitHub stuff before, but what I was recommending is I use Git for versioning control. We have a CSV file, basically, with the list of printers, and then as we update this, if it gets updated, we just attach a new version number to that, which then syncs to all the different servers, and then they go, okay, these are the new printers or new print drivers, or qualifications for whatever we need to do. It'll have either like an IP address, because we've set that up on the computer side, or if it's directly, actually no, it'll all be IP based. So it'll all be IP based because it's all handled through Cisco. So, and then we just need to know what driver types to switch the printers to that we've set up on the cups image. And then it just all gets handled through a CSV file. The cups configuration stuff file stays on Git. I'm not sure what other security stuff. That's one of the documents I was looking through, was the security aspects of like, how do we go through that security hardening and all that stuff. This is what it gave me to look at, encryption on the hard drives, exposed services, IP climates. So it's probably small. Stick to SSH. So key-based authentications. I might see if I can just integrate this into our Active Directory. So if it's authenticating with our Active Directory, so I can restrict it to only certain users. And then that way I can have two-factor enabled as well, so to make sure everything's stayed clear. I need to look through audit logs, force encryption. Yeah, it's a lot of technical stuff. I don't know if I'm gonna have any secrets set up just yet, but I could set. I'll be looking at that as well to figure out if that's gonna be something we have to look at or not. But I'm pretty happy with it. Where this is potential, because this makes it really easy for my boss to just go, okay, we have a new driver, great. We update the CSV file for Git. We then push it, to Git. We push it to Git. It has a new version number, and then all the printers will start to sync that new version of commands, and then we can easily pick up from there. And I just love the fact that since we're gonna have like multiple boxes set up for this stuff, if stuff breaks on this one or it's not behaving properly, we don't have to do this in production. We can just literally just turn off this virtual machine and it'll just hop, and then go over to the other one and then do another hop. And then the other thing we could do is we could easily do updates to, like, okay, we're gonna do updates on this box today. Let's remove it from the pool, and then or heck, just go to the golden image, do the updates that we need to, and then just just start up this server brand new. That's what's great about this with using Git as the main part of it, and then having just drivers that just get self-installed. I can easily just have a script, startup script. Once we know what everything is a part of, that installs drivers, dependencies, and then dependencies meaning like Git and stuff, or the cup stuff. That stuff automatically gets pulled into it. It gives me a full report of what happened and what failed, and then I can negotiate between some AI tool to figure out, okay, why is this failing. But you will run into situations where AI just doesn't know how to fix stuff, and that does happen fairly often. That's why I don't give it direct access to things. But what was the funny one that I was having the other day? Yeah, I've had so many of those times where I'm just like, I've asked it things. It's like, yeah, I'm just stuck at this point. I've done everything I can. I'm just in a feedback loop. Can you just fix this for me? And I'm like, okay, I'll go and actually figure out what you're doing wrong. But yeah, you could easily just have a startup script. We could easily have some cron jobs that do system checks. Log files could easily be part of a cron job because those just fill up for no reason. But I really love this idea of just treating my servers as cattle. You don't have to worry about the node going down. Just shut it off if it's having issues for some reason. Let the next one pick up the slack. Everything gets synced up to GitHub. So all the config stuff gets synced with GitHub, so all the servers constantly stay in sync. And then you have multiple layerings of security and firewall rules, and just making sure the ports are very consistent and you're only using the traffic you need to. And then you can also, with the diagnostic data, I can easily know what the expectations are of traffic flow and stuff, and restrict things there. Like, there's a lot of very easy tools to set up that are very enterprise grade, to make sure that you're staying safe and making this as easy as possible. But once this is set up, like, this is going to be very easy to maintain because you don't have to worry about keeping a server alive. You're just destroying them constantly. The expectation is that it doesn't exist very long. Sorry, I'm getting messages constantly. I should probably mute that. Sorry. But that's kind of where we need to be. So if someone like infiltrates one of your servers, let me get inside your box. It can't go anywhere else because it's not allowed to in the first place, or B, it's not allowed to. It's not touching any other infrastructure. It's pretty isolated. And then you're destroying them every couple weeks. So, like, even if you don't know about the threat, the fact that you're just destroying it constantly is pretty awesome. So it reduces your threat vectors. And then, yeah, so I'll be probably restricting what websites it can. I'll have to look at that at proxmox. I'll add that to my notes. I think on the Cisco side, I could probably do that. I was just thinking about restricting it to just very specific URLs that's able to access. So if it tries to go outside of its box, it can't. So if something happens, it restricts it more. Yeah, This is gonna be interesting if this goes through. Let me know if you have any suggestions. I do think the Git is gonna be probably the biggest tool. I don't know if we'll end up setting up our own local host. I don't think we have a big enough of a need. We can easily just set up a private account and just use that stuff. That's what we've done in the past, but yeah, this is really cool. This is really technical and well above what I'm getting paid, but from my personal experience and like just having to be able to put this on my resume saying I rebuilt and saved this by myself. I didn't have help. My boss wasn't able to help me. He approved of it and he really liked once it was set up how easy it was to use. But I'm just trying to give him tools, and this could potentially go to the rest of the IT team because we're kind of two different organizations now. And if they end up starting using this same setup, we could easily do that. And if one thing I'm gonna have to look at is we're probably gonna have to have two different CSV files probably, just so we can have some load balancing. We'll probably have two different CSVs. Then we'll just have two pairs of servers. These servers don't need a whole lot of hardware. I think on my spreadsheet it was saying like you could probably get away with per site 2 cups VMs, keep alive. There we are. 2 vCPUs and 2 to 4 gigs of RAM, and then 20 to 40 gigabytes of disk. So we could easily do, we'll probably bump that up to like 4 cores just so it's not struggling, and probably do between 4 and 8 is probably what we'll realistically do, and probably do a 40 gigabyte disk just so I don't have to deal with maintenance. Obviously we'll do things where like the logs and stuff will either be off put to a off put to our dashboarding tool, and just have it automatically delete the older logs that we don't need, because we don't need a ton of logging, but logging is nice if there are issues. And then I think we'll have 1 or 2 CSV files that'll make it so we can spread out the load a little bit, just so we're not hammering the same virtual machine. That also makes it so that it's a little bit easier for the load balancing and stuff. Fix that problem. So high availability, treat your servers like cattle, and just an absurd amount of just layering of security to make sure it's insulated. So we have multiple different locations it's getting hit from, and we just want to make sure that we're not causing ourselves headaches later on. That, and we're gonna have offsite backups and stuff on top of this. I don't think we're gonna have any problems with a lot of this stuff. It's gonna be it's complicated, but it's detailed and it's thorough, and once it's set up, it's going to be very fluid. But I think we're handling probably 60 or 70 servers, or 60 or 70 printers, at least on our side. Yeah, just build guides for everything, maintenance guides. The great thing is I can just ask ChatGPT, like, hey, based on this conversation, can you build me X, Y, and Z? Yeah, I need a maintenance guide for this. What are we going to be doing each month? What schedule should we have? You know, when does Ubuntu have its patches go live? And then, like I said, with the nice thing about having multiple servers that are redundant, you can easily pull one from the pool, do the updates, and then just put it back in, or just rebuild it from scratch, depending on what you wanted to do. Just kind of leapfrog off each other. You know, do an update on one half of the servers, and if people start having issues for some reason, you can just pull back from the golden image that hasn't done the patch yet, pull that over, reintegrate that back in, and just have it pull from the primary, from whatever CSV file ends up being the right one. But anyways, I'm probably rambling way too much, but I thought this was really cool. It's really technical, but I'm excited to see where this goes, and see how far I'm going to be chasing down some of this stuff. I just hope my boss can understand it. I think he's pretty technical, but I don't think he's done it recently. I've been mostly on the Mac side of things, so I don't know what the enterprise requirements are always going to be, but between the two of us, I think we'll be able to mash this thing together and make it really, really beautiful. So I'm excited. So, anyways, thanks for guys for listening to my rant and how excited I am. If you do have suggestions, let me know. But I know not many people are watching this, so it's not that big of a deal. But I just get excited and want to share it with somebody and kind of show some of the process that I'm going through, and hopefully it helps some people do some project planning. I just love the fact I can, have a relatively senior dev helping review my documents, kind of go over this stuff with me, because I don't have a senior dev to go over this stuff with me. So I'm just kind of fumbling through documentation, trying to figure out whatever the best secure thing is, trying to figure out where the security vulnerabilities are of those things, because it's, if the project looks great but hasn't been maintained in the last 6 years, then obviously it's a dead project and it's not even worth even considering, which happens often. Or you have to go review what code libraries they're using and then see if those have vulnerabilities. I think cups is popular enough that you don't have to worry about that as much, but you still have to do that research. ChatGPT is not going to give you correct answers. It never will. Claude Code won't either. It'll always try to hallucinate stuff or pull in bad repositories that are known bad repositories. So it's my job of taking what it gives me. That's why I usually ask it to give it to me in a digestible format. Give me the links. Like it didn't give me any links here, but that's fine. What I usually will do is I'll re-upload this document in like a fresh conversation and say, hey, this is the project we're working on. I need documentation around this, or I'll just go find it. One of the two. But it's fun to just see where it goes with it specifically. And just you have to break this stuff down. You've got like 6 different services at least, just to begin with, plus the security layering. But as long as you're reducing your impact, reviewing security vulnerabilities, figuring out ways to mitigate those or work around those, use known good standards, and then just expect somebody to get into your infrastructure and have tools on that inside track to have to be able to be alerted of those vulnerabilities. We had that happen the other day. We had a vendor we were working with, and our website got hacked, and we had to immediately quarantine that device that we got an alert on, remove it from our network, basically, figure out what file it was, and do a security scan. And that's what we ended up finding, is the website actually got compromised, which is crazy to think about, like just going to websites and having that stuff instantly. I'm just glad our security software is robust enough to instantly alert us about that stuff. At my previous job, we never had any ideas what we were triggering alerts on, or if we even were, because like our MacBooks didn't have. We put McAfee on that, and McAfee's not going to be keeping up with stuff. I don't know what. I think we used the same thing on Windows, but yeah, like as the IT technician, we weren't ever privy to the sysadmin side at that last job, so we were just always in the dark of if we were causing more logs to happen. And when I talked with the security teams, like they never brought up anything. They're just like, yeah, everything's fine. You just don't read the logs. It's crazy. But at this job, it's interesting because I'm pretty much by myself with my manager on the side. But for the most part, I'm by myself, and I'm just interpreting the data that we're getting from our security team or security software. They're very on it. They make sure that we are very aware of things. But it's very much up to me to like make sure that I'm reading, Reddit posts. There's a couple different Twitter threads that are really helpful. There's a lot of good websites and stuff that you have to go through and review. Make sure you're understanding threats or issues with, updates and stuff, so that when you do your patch Tuesdays, you're not exposing yourself more to more issues, especially with the way Windows is going. I mean, we saw File Explorer having issues, localhost having issues, and blue screens with mouse and keyboards. And you're just like, how? How is this not even like not even able to be simulated or tested? Well, they don't have a testing team anymore, so that definitely was part of it. But anyways, I just thought that was, it's just crazy. The amount of security stuff that everybody's having to deal with nowadays is just complete garbage. I'm ready to start sandboxing my email and social interaction communication stuff into a complete sandbox that doesn't have access to anything on my computer. So every file I open is completely in a sandbox. At work we have a pretty good system that actually does open the attachments, and like every link and attachment either and gets sanitized by them. Usually when I'll see a link in my email, it'll usually have their link that redirects. So if you click on it, it goes through them first and then goes to the actual website, so you know it's been sanitized. It definitely breaks like the images and stuff on in Outlook and stuff, but I'd rather it be broken than not be secure, because people are embedding crap everywhere. It's driving us nuts. But anyways, I'm excited for this. I think Cups is robust enough for our needs. Hopefully I don't find any major security problems, because I didn't see any other good Linux solutions for it. So yeah, you guys have a great day. Hope this is fun for you guys. I'll keep making these if you guys think it's fun. Seeing project planning and stuff, especially as I make more progress. I'll definitely could share some of that stuff. Yeah, I was like working on some other stuff recently. I was working on see if I could create a dashboard for all the different alerts and stuff that are happening, just with the way AWS has been handling stuff, and Cloudflare having issues and stuff. But it's way too hard to program that, 'cause computers aren't intuitive with social media. It just gives it to you in raw format. Anyways, yeah, thanks guys. You guys have a great day. Peace.